Alright, the next step is to install the tiller shaft into the rear housing, and it tells you to make sure that the bronze gear is centered on the key on the shaft, and it tells you how to center if it's not centered. But I got to wondering about it. I said it slides back and forth nice and easy, and hope you can see that in there. See how it slides back and forth? Yeah, so there's a lot of slop in there. So I got to looking and ended up taking it apart. Get that off of there. And the key right there, you'll see how well that shows up. It's rounded off on that corner right there, and starting to round off on this corner over here. Hopefully that shows up. And that's where the bearings have been coming up and hitting it on either side. Yeah, I'll get you a shot of that. See how the bearing comes up there and hits that on both sides. The key is supposed to be the exact same width as the gear here. Of course, with it worn like that, allows it some play side to side. And when you go do your shimming here, it's going to be next to impossible to get that because you're going to have some play. So what I'm going to do is attempt, and I plan on reusing these bearings. The bearings are in good shape. So I plan on reusing them. I'm going to attempt to get this key out and see if I can match one up someplace. And if I can, I'll get a new one. If not, I'll order one from Superpower to put back in here. I'm not sure if this is a standard Woodruff key or what. So we'll see if we can get that key out of there. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. And that time it didn't. I marred the key up a little bit. It doesn't concern me because it's got to come out anyhow. It is starting to come out. Get a little bit more of a bite on there. Move my gasket over here out of the way so I don't damage that. Got a little bit more. More bite on it. It's barely moving, but it is moving. Well, maybe I should try a screwdriver underneath of it. Now I can break the tip on the screwdriver. How about that? I'm not even sure what kind of key this is, whether it's a Woodruff or just a straight key. But it is a stubborn one. Well, I'll get you back when I get her out. Okay, if you remember last time we were working on this tiller shaft, we discovered that the woodruff key was damaged and that everything slid real easy, which it shouldn't slide very easy, because then the shaft, when the gears are held in there, the shaft can then slide right on out one side or the other, so you don't want that. No, actually it wouldn't, because the woodruff key would hit both bearings. But anyhow, the vice grips wouldn't get the woodruff key out. I put it in my vise here at home. It didn't have enough bite to hold it, so I took it to work. We had a nice big vise there with some nice aggressive teeth on it, and I was able to get a good bite on it. And it still took a few times to pop out, but eventually it came out. And it's a 1 1/4 by 1/4 inch woodruff key that goes in there. And I found one, but it's completely half moon. The one we took out had the sides shaved ever so slightly, and they're cut to the width of this bronze gear right here. So I measured that. It's 0.126 inches or 1.126 across there. Centered my woodruff key up my mill, shaved the sides down, took it to work, pressed it in. And in order to keep the bronze gear from sliding, I used some high strength Loctite and Loctited it down so that it was centered on that woodruff key. And after that set, I took some medium set Loctite and I set each bearing up against the side of the gear to hold that in place. Now all that's set, so it shouldn't move one way or the other now. And we're going to get ready to slide her back in there here in a minute. I just want to give you an update on what I had to do to that, get that going. Alright, we're going to get ready to slide this tiller shaft back in there. And I was just reading up on my manual a little bit, make sure I had everything right. Somewhere I had read, well, it says right here in this section, it doesn't matter which way this goes in, but I had read somewhere else that it's okay to reverse it to even the wear out on the gears. If you can look at it closer, which I know it's not going to show up on the camera, the gears have wear on this side right here, because as the shaft turns, it wants to turn this way. So it was pulling on the gears back here, putting the wear on this side. And it's not bad, it's not excessive. I could put it back in that way and not lose a bit of sleep over it. But since it's going to be together for a while, hopefully, I want to put it in that way and even the wear out, put some wear on the back side. So that's what we're going to do with that. Now we slide that up in there like this. Hopefully this is showing up. Yep. It's a little snug in there, and then you may have to turn your shaft a little bit to get her lined up. So I believe we got her already. Yep, got her right there. And then you want to take your shaft cover with the bearing race already in there and put your thinnest gasket on. And then you want to line your bolt holes and then seat this up there. Again, this is without seals in place. And to make sure I get my bolt holes lined up, I'm going to go ahead and start one of them. And once two of them put in and opposite of one another, you're not going to put them all in right now. We're just checking the shimness, checking to see if it has to be shimmed or not. And get my gasket lined up there. Alright, got one there. I can get started. got two of them started. Now you need to take your hammer and gently tap this end. And it also tells you want to make sure it's a snug fit. If it's not a snug fit, then it doesn't fit properly, and I don't know what it says do after that, but anyhow, mine was snug. I had to tap it to get it off. And you can see I got to tap it to get it back on. And you tighten up 2 screws nice and snug. And since this has 5 holes instead of 6 or 4, there's not exactly 2 of them opposite of one another. So I'm going to put a third one in. Be 2 on one side, 1 on the other, and that will give me a nice pull straight down to make sure that I've got it seated. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to run a tap through these in the housing to make sure they're clean before you put your bolts back in. I didn't do that. I didn't want to do that right now since I would end up with metal shavings in there, and I've already got my rear bearing in, and I didn't want to introduce other problems with a tap running in there, leaving mess behind. Alright, we got them tight, and now check your side to side play. And there's virtually no, there's slightly, about 2 to 10 I think is what it wants, and I'm in that range right there. And it will still turn. You can hear the backlash. Yeah. So we're going to call that good for right now. And we're going to read up a little bit more and see what else to do. Alright, the next thing it says to do after you get the back here on your housing cover we just finished up, which we had to take the remaining bolts, put non-hardening gasket on them, thread sealant on them, put those in, and then take the other ones out, put sealer on them, and then put them back in. We've done that. We've got that tightened back up. We double checked our end play. We're still good with that. The next thing it says to do is put the front shaft in, and it says to take a piece of thin plastic. And I used the plastic that the seal came in. I just cut a strip, put on there. You want to wrap that around your shaft, and I kind of pre-did this to see how well it was going to work before I went and put this on the camera. And we'll slide that up past that front keyway. And we'll take and put a little bit of oil on here. I'll put a little bit of oil on that seal face right there. And then we start the plastic into there, which that could be the hard part. Making sure you get the seal facing the correct way. And then you slide it up on here, and this helps ease the seal up onto the shaft without cutting it. And of course you make sure your shaft is clean, you don't have any burrs on the keyway or the snap rings, and make sure they're cleaned out. And then you push the shaft, the seal, on up the shaft, till it lines up. And we just made it over that last key right there. And you pull the plastic out. Sometimes they say to put a sealant around the outside of these seals, but one of the addendums in this manual is that the new seals come with rubber coating around the outside, and in that case they're not needed. So this one does have rubber around the outside, so we're not putting any sealant on it. And I have to find some type of a pusher. Yep. To push that seal up in there. Without beating our shaft to pieces. We're almost there. Just a little bit more up here to the top edge. Yep. 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 Alright. That seal is seated. One down, several more to go. Get back with you in a few.